What is going on? We are back, all you dumb marks and curtain jerkers. Welcome back to the Tornado Tag podcast, or Tornado Tag, whatever we fucking call it these days. But we are here. BP Burke, ABJ, Lilly. The trio is back together once again. Everyone's on the same page. It's one of those things. The official tag team is in effect. I still have not gotten BP his belt yet, but we are.
We'll see each other this weekend. We'll see each other this weekend.
Are you gonna walk around the show with it? Are you gonna be a dumb mark with the rest of us?
I'm never gonna be that guy.
You're going to be. Well, I'm giving you your belt at the show. You're gonna walk around with it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's just how that's happening. That's how you're.
Everybody has to wear their belts. I'm gonna wear my belt. We're gonna be twins. It's gonna be great.
Yeah, we're gonna be dumb marks together. And if people are wondering what are you guys talking about? Where are you gonna be? Well, we're gonna be going to Halloween Havoc on Sunday, to go see some stuff. Myself and Lily will be dressing up for the occasion. I'm going to be doing my best impersonation of Rey Mysterio, a fat Rey Mysterio, and Lily's going to be Eddie Guerrero.
Cross-dressing Eddie Guerrero.
Yeah, so we're going to have some fun. BP, who are you going as for Halloween?
I'm going as backstage interviewer BP Burke.
Hey,
I love that. That's going to be awesome.
Sometimes commentator. I don't.
Oof.
Wait,
we got to get you a
Travis Norbert.
So man, what's been new with you? How's the life of pro wrestling been?
This is a quiet one. No shows this weekend for me. I know you had your first deathmatch experience. That was probably something. There you go.
Wow.
That's
Well, actually, I'm more curious. I haven't talked to Lily publicly about this. Lily, what did you think of your first deathmatch experience? And
you were right on the action, right? Yeah.
It wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be.
It was bloody.
It was.
Yeah.
I was more concerned with. You know what? I'm a little peeved. I gotta say, I am a little PO'd at the amount of stuff that wasn't used that I kept almost breaking my neck tripping over.
There was extra weapons that were brought that people didn't use, right. And some of them I'm thankful they didn't.
Oh, I'm super thankful that none of the weed whackers got used, but the weed whackers were trying to kill me all day.
Yeah,
then you know, I'm sorry, what's his name? I don't want to say his. Oh my gosh, Stan Styles. Thank you. You know, there was some whipped cream involved, and then once the cleaning crew came through, it all got pushed onto my side, and there was some slips happening. But all in all, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. I think I could do it again. I feel like I was a lot more nervous than I needed to be.
She learned to put her hood up and tighten it.
Oh my gosh, and I'm glad I did, because right when I did, somebody hit a light tube and like half of it broke off and went flying, and it literally I have a camera in one hand and I'm like doing like this to pick up my hood, and as soon as I get my hand to the front of my head, there comes the light tube and just boom right off my head.
If I were to ever do ringside camera for a death match, I would have to be dressed like a knight. I would literally have to be in armor.
Yeah.
or chainmail. Or
I had jeans without holes, believe it or not, guys. I found a pair of jeans that I had without holes. I was wearing like full boots, slip resistant boots, which have a lot of thumbtacks in the bottom of them now.
Yeah,
I'm sure they do.
Yeah, it was a good time.
There's some other stuff that happened to the show that I'm sure once the footage airs, you guys will all see. We won't get into it just yet, but make sure you go check out that show when it drops on High Tension Wrestling Network. Also, make sure you guys go over and subscribe to the High Tension Wrestling Network. And one thing I will say, there was a moment where someone got hit with a light tube and it didn't break, and it just goes bink, and it sounded like it hurt so bad, and it just didn't break. Like, and they hit him hard, just went bink, like it was like a hit with a beer bottle. Like, it was great.
That actually happened in a match. It may have been at the Hamburg Fieldhouse. I'm not sure. It was an ECW match, and it wasn't at the arena. It wasn't at the Elks Lodge. It may have been in Hamburg. It wasn't in Jim Thorpe. But there was one of the first Cactus Jack Sabu matches where Sabu tries to hit Cactus with a bottle, and it just thunks off his head, because that's how beer bottles really work when they're not sugar glass.
Yeah, when they're not gimmicked. Yeah, so that was pretty fun. The
Also,
speaking of 2300 Arena, you see NXT is going to be doing a show there.
Yeah, next not yeah. No, it's not next Wednesday. It's the Wednesday after. It's the Wednesday after Election Day. That's why they're not running on Tuesday. It's going to be live from the 2300 Arena on November 6th.
It's pretty cool.
And then that weekend, November 9th, is when I'll be back in action. Well, not in action, but I'll be back at PPW. We're going to, I love the match we just announced. We just put a video out for it. We're doing VSK and Nolan Pierce. That is official now. And the video, if you go on PPW Entertainment on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Nolan's promo, we actually interspersed it with the infamous picture of when Nolan was 9 years old and VSK has him up on his shoulders. And then they recreated the picture after Nolan won the TV title of Nolan putting VSK up on his shoulders. So that was really, really cool. And that is going to be a fun one. That is going to be a fun one.
Well, let's get into a little bit of news before we break into our topic. So Seen Taker is going to be at Halloween Havoc. Oh, see Taker live. Exciting. So there's our first bit of news. The Undertaker's officially Batista? Yeah, the Undertaker's officially dead to me, and I'm a huge Dave Batista fan.
Yeah, he's the animal.
Here's my thing. Why doesn't just Undertaker stick to fucking wrestling? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, shut up and wrestle, right?
Just shut up and wrestle. Podcast. Shut up and talk about wrestling. I don't want to hear that. Ew. I can't say the same thing for Kane because Kane.
Yeah, he's a mayor, but
he's into that politicking.
Stick to your Tennessee bullshit, Kane.
Yeah. Undertaker and Kane did a podcast with Donald Trump, and then I guess did a response to Dave Batista calling Donald Trump and every name under the book, which it is what it is. But so Taker's has endorsed Donald Trump with a couple days before the election here.
Old wrestler being conservative, shocker.
Yeah, definitely. And then the other bit of news: Samantha Irvin walks away from the WWE in a shocking turn of events.
Yeah, I know there was like briefly something that came out that said she gave them hours of notice, she gave them months of notice, and I guess the thing that's coming out now is she wants to focus on her music career, wants to really get that going, and felt it was time to move on. And Lillian Garcia back at the helm for the foreseeable future. I thought it was going to be like a 1 or 2 shot deal because she doesn't look like it, but she's 58 years old now. But no, it seems like she is back at it.
Yeah, and here's the thing too. It's funny how like everyone was like Samantha Irvin's the greatest ring announcer of all time, and then she's no longer wants to be part of that company when she wants to go do her own thing, and everyone's like, she sucked anyway, F her. Like immediately just turncoat on her. She was one of the best.
Samantha Irvin was excellent.
Does she go into your top 5, top 3?
It's somebody asked me this earlier. Like, what's your Mount Rushmore of ring announcers? And my first instinct was 4 Howard Finkel's. That was my first instinct. Howard Finkel was definitely
one.
He's number 1,
right?
I for me, my number 2 is Gary Michael Capetta.
I just say Capetta.
And then it's pretty interchangeable. It's Samantha Irvin might be number 3 for me. She was excellent at her job. Excellent.
I totally agree.
I'm a little young. I don't remember youngish. I don't remember Jimmy Lennon when not Jimmy Lennon Jr., the boxing announcer, but his father, Jimmy Lennon Sr., was a longtime ring announcer for Madison Square Garden. Dave Penzer was always very good in WCW as well. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to think who Jeremy Borash did a fine job in TNA. Bob Ortiz was pretty good in ECW. Steven DeAngelis was good there. I think I'm not the biggest Justin Roberts fan, just not my cup of tea. Nothing against the guy. I do think that I almost said Chris Cruz, completely different guy. Who is? Oh, I can't think of the name of the Ring of Honor ring announcer now. Bobby Cruz. I think Bobby Cruz is very good.
Where does Carolina Jim rank on your?
Oh, Carolina Jim, right behind Finkel, of course. Right behind Finkel. Yeah.
Coming out of the dog pound. I love fucking Carolina Jim.
I loved when Kilowatt was South Carolina Jim once.
Good stuff. All right. Anything else going on with wrestling that we could talk about? Or
in the chat, we got the confirmation that Adam Cole and Britt Baker are no longer an item. Still, Adam Cole says still very much friends, but that is what it is, and I think that's been common knowledge. He moved back to Pennsylvania.
Yeah. I don't care about that shit anymore. I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah,
Like the dirt sheet stuff, I just stay away from. I don't want to know it.
Yeah, it's their life.
Yep. Don't give a shit.
Now or never.
Wrestle. Yeah.
Shut up and wrestle.
Shut up and wrestle, Taker.
They're not gonna live forever.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, let's jump into our topic today, BP.
Oh yeah, the Freebirds, the fabulous Freebirds. Excuse me. So yeah, this is the origin of this was the Freebird rule, where the infamous you have a team of 3 people that can function as a tag team, and any 2 of the 3 can be a part of that team. But this is the story of one of the greatest. I still call them stables, but I think the nom du jour is now a faction. And there you go.
BP, who are we? Who are each of us? If you had to break down the 3 of us in the Freebirds, who's who?
That's tough. Well, with the hair,
Maybe
you got to be
save
Michael
that
Hayes,
question
right?
for later. We gotta. I need to know what all these 3 are about first, and then we have him answer the question. Or
and then you have the
now and then explain it.
Then you have the elusive 4th Freebird, Jimmy Jam Garvin.
Mm-hmm.
That was a little bit later though. So I mean, front and center, and it was right there. And I love that picture because the ring post makes it look like Buddy Roberts is holding a giant gun, and I love that.
It does. Yeah, it looks like he's like a nightstick or a giant 007 gun.
And on the right hand side, you have one of the most underrated guys, especially before he got sick, Terry Gordy, unbelievable. And in the middle is the guy at the center of it all, Michael P.S. Hayes. And let's talk about him first, because the constant for the Freebirds, the constant is Michael Hayes, and has some controversy, has said some things behind closed doors that were not good things to say. But Michael Hayes, to this day, is a major force in professional wrestling, one of the top voices and creative voices in professional wrestling, like it or not. And his story starts in the late 70s when he breaks into the business, trained by Afa Sika, of all people. And
really,
even though I guess they were back and forth between Pennsylvania and Florida, because he's from Pensacola, which is Samoan Central now. When they get tired of the weather in Pennsylvania, a lot of the Anawai family moves. They're the we're talking about the Freebirds. They're the Snowbirds. They're the fabulous Snowbirds, going back and forth between Pensacola and Eastern Pennsylvania. And so that's where Michael Hayes grows up, and he breaks in Memphis. So, and even in Germany for a little bit. And Michael Hayes is now one of the all-time, maybe not an all-time talker, but is a very, very, very good talker. Always was able to make things known on the stick. But I think even people who love Michael Hayes would tell you not the best in between the ropes, not an amazing worker, not going to be confused with Ricky Steamboat or Ric Flair or any of those guys. But he could talk, and he could talk people into the seats. And this is back in the days when you had to draw money. Like, it wasn't like now. It's now like your major wrestling companies are all TV businesses. AEW is going to make money off of this TV deal no matter how many people they draw to their shows. WWE doesn't have to run house shows. They could they made money during the pandemic when they were in a room, like they were just locked. They were in their performance center. They made a lot of money
real
off
quick.
TV and
so anyone out there, please do not go, or maybe I'm not saying this to like boycott, but so far there's 49 people from 10 different states who have fallen ill to a mystery strain of E. coli. And
from the Quarter Pounder,
McDonald's, right? From Quarter Pounder.
Quarter Pounder.
And one's now reportedly dead.
Oh, geez.
I picked a good time to give up fast food. Picked a good time to be poor.
I was like, wait a minute. We gave up fast food, or we just can't afford it?
That too.
McDonald's isn't the go-to usually anyway.
No. I don't do a whole lot of fast food, although I did have, after PPW, I did stop at a Wendy's.
Did you get the Krabby Patty meal?
I did get the Krabby Patty. I don't know why. Like,
what'd you think?
SpongeBob's it was fine. It was a burger. It's a burger from Wendy's. It was good. But like, I don't have this SpongeBob nostalgia. I'm too old for that. Like, I was like 16, 17 when SpongeBob came out. It's a little before my time.
Rat says, "How the hell did you butt hurt somebody about talking wrestling?" That's what I do. That's have you not been listening to ABJ speak for 6 years?
Welcome to the show.
Yeah.
Welcome to the show.
People dislike my takes and cry about it. You know, it happens.
So Michael Hayes is breaking in Memphis, and in Memphis, this is where he's kind of cutting his teeth. But then he goes to Mid-South Wrestling, which is Bill Watts' territory. Well, it may have been Bill Watts, Leroy McGurk at this point. And this is where he gets put together with this big, corn-fed, 6'5", 6'6", 19-year-old kid named Terry Bam Bam Gordy, and this old veteran, this grizzled old veteran from Canada, Buddy Roberts, who, oh no,
yeah. Fight the power, Austin.
So, and
your favorite son's gonna die of E. coli. My mom's here, real quick. Your favorite son's gonna die of E. coli. Yeah. No, your favorite son, Austin. A report just came in that one's dead of E. coli, and there's like a bunch of people getting E. coli from McDonald's eating quarter pounders, and Austin goes, "I may or may not had a quarter pounder today." So, yeah. So if your kid dies, you know why. Quarter pounders are McDonald's. They're Tootsie
Quarter
Pop.
pounders from McDonald's.
Yeah.
They're saying mostly on the news it was Burger King. That has
So then we're dead because we had Burger King last week. Who cares?
Anyway, so we were at Terry Gordy.
Terry Gordy, we're talking.
Who?
We're talking. Your kid's dead. That's right.
And they said
That's why
okay.
You can only
did buy some of the onions.
Hold on. Let her go for a second. Just let her get out of her system.
That's why you can only have Krabby Patties.
That's not your son. That's
not
BP
your
Burke.
son.
The other one?
No,
That's BP Burke.
That's not your son.
BP Burke. That's not your son. He's in the chat. Yeah, this is a podcast, by the way. So this is going out for everyone to hear. No, you should definitely not.
Everyone's going to hear this for the rest of eternity.
Yeah.
You in the back. Go ahead.
Thousands.
It's Burger King.
All right, we're good. We're gonna go back to our show now. Love you. Bye bye. You don't have to leave. I'm just not acknowledging your existence.
Okay,
anyway,
so I got Mid-South Wrestling. He got put with Terry Gordy and who?
And Buddy Jack Roberts. So Buddy Roberts was his working name, but they called him Buddy Jack Roberts because of his affinity for Jack Daniel's Tennessee whiskey.
Oh.
So to get that nickname in professional wrestling, you have to drink boatloads of whiskey. Boatloads of whiskey. So the Mid-South areas where they come together is the fabulous Freebirds, of course, named after the Leonard Skinner song "Freebird" that people shout for all the time when they're trying to be annoying at concerts. And this is around the time that Michael Jackson's starting to break out as a solo artist, and Michael Hayes would do the moonwalk, even to the point at WrestleMania 17 in 2001 in the Gimmick Battle Royal, he comes out with his big sequined rebel flag robe and does the moonwalk as Michael P.S. Hayes, which may have been his last match. Now that I think of it, I'm not sure about that. And they are one of the. Sometimes, especially back in the day, they would get incorrectly credited as inventing this, and they did not. But they were one of the real driving forces in the early 80s that normalized entrance music in wrestling. Because before them, most wrestlers just came out and did their match, and there was no music. Can you imagine like a wrestling show now without music? That would be insane.
Be awesome.
Why did you just do one? It would be. Well, I know I like music.
Would it?
Music.
I feel like it kind of gives you that vibe for them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
without
that's also
it,
one of
you're
the most
like, oh, somebody came out.
That is also the most low stress job you can have in wrestling. That is the most low stress job as the music guy. Like the only problem with the music guy is if you mess up, everybody knows. But it's a relatively easy job, I would say. It's a good learning how to do things job. So the Freebirds get their start there in
a Royal Rumble.
That guy, no, Shawn Michaels paid him off. That was a conspiracy. That's something completely different. Shawn Michaels paid that music guy off. First time he screwed over the British Bulldog, that stinking hyena, Shawn Michaels. Bret Hart was right. Bret Hart's right about everything. He didn't like, except he probably likes the Undertaker. Whatever. So they're gonna move, and this was around the time that unless you were a lifer in a territory, usually if you were a lifer, you had a piece of the action. You were part of like the ownership. people just moved around a lot. So Hayes moves from Tennessee to Mid-South. Mid-South is where he links up with Gordy and Roberts. But they're really going to make a name for themselves. And they're coming out the Freebird. They're coming out sometimes to the Devil Went Down to Georgia. And now they're going to move 1982 to
I don't know why Alex is so mad.
The territory they're probably most famous for being in. Uh-oh.
Alex Watton shot angry. I'm not sure.
Nothing happened, did it?
I don't. I mean, I don't know. We gotta wait for the footage to drop. I guess I don't know.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh. Well, you can't please everybody, right?
Yeah. Not everyone can be.
You
happy,
can't please
you
them
know?
all. And speaking of that, sometimes you got to make a business decision. It happens. Yeah.
Make business.
So,
business has to be done.
Speaking of making business decisions, yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, best practices and all that. So the Freebirds make their way to World Class Championship Wrestling in 1982. And this is why I said last week, if you haven't seen the Iron Claw yet, good time to brush up on it. The Freebirds are portrayed in Iron Claw for a little bit, and they are the legendary rivals, the most famous rivals of the Von Erichs. And so this is late 1982, and Ric Flair is in the midst of his first run as the NWA World Champion. And if you don't if you don't really know a whole lot about the territory system and how it worked at this time, because this is pre Vince Sr. selling to his son. Like we're still in the heart of the territory times. Mm-hmm. So the NWA World Champion was literally a traveling champion. Yeah, if they weren't booked elsewhere, which almost never happened, they would be in their home territory. But the NWA champion literally was in a new town every night, traveling the country, traveling the world, going to Japan, Australia, all over the United States. And they would come in for a week or so to every territory. And in the end of 1982, when Ric Flair, the NWA World Champion, is making his way to World Class, he is going up against Kerry Von Erich. Kerry Von Erich is going to be his opponent. And at this point, the Freebirds are coming in. They're kind of baby faces on the rise. They're coming in as baby faces. They have a little bit more of an edge. To steal from the Osmonds, the Von Erichs might be a little bit country, and the Freebirds are a little bit rock and roll. Well, more so, the Von Erichs are Rush, and the Freebirds are Skinner, because there's your music. Kerry would always come out the modern day Warrior. Mm-hmm. So Michael Hayes finds himself as the special guest referee for this Ric Flair and Kerry Von Erich steel cage match in Christmas Day 1982. Their Christmas show was always called Star Wars. Christmas Star Wars. So the big main event, this is the night. Tonight's the night. Kerry's going to win that NWA title from Ric Flair. And Michael Hayes wants to make sure he does. So Michael Hayes knocks out Ric Flair. He's not going to be a calling it down the middle referee. He literally is trying to help Kerry Von Erich win the NWA World title. But Kerry Von Erich is a upstanding, God-fearing Texan who wants to do things the right way, by golly. And I don't need to take shortcuts. I'm gonna win this title fair and square. Michael Hayes is like, dude, I'm helping you win. Like, become the world champion. Like, this is what you've always wanted. Take the title. And Kerry says no, and Ric Flair, he lets Ric Flair get back up. He lets Ric Flair recuperate. And there's a bit of a miscommunication later on in the match while Hayes' back is turned. And Ric Flair knocks Kerry Von Erich into Michael Hayes. And Michael Hayes thinks that Kerry did it on purpose. Kerry just attacked him because he didn't want him to help him win. And this leads to an infamous angle where Terry Gordy slams that cage door right in Kerry Von Erich's head. Ric Flair makes a cover. Fast count 1, 2, 3. Kerry Von Erich got screwed by the Freebirds. And the biggest angle in the history of world-class wrestling is off to the races, the Freebirds and the Von Erichs. And they tear it up for the next 3 years.
Did they have one of the biggest selling draws at that one point in time where they sold out like a football stadium or something?
They did have a few Texas Stadium shows. I know. Well, one of the big ones was after David died, the Parade of Champions, where Kerry does win the NWA World Title. But no, they were up and down. They probably did do a few big shows there. Texas Stadium, I think they ran a few times, but they tore it up. This was as big of a rivalry as it got. And what ends it is in 1985, somebody up in New York is trying to take over the world. And the rock and wrestling connection is huge. And the Freebirds, their gimmick is they're a rock band. We're wrestlers, but we're also a rock band. That is literally their gimmick. They would call them like the greatest band in the world. They created the song Bad Street USA, which is one of the all-time entrance themes. Michael Hayes is the singer on that. In Texas, they also link up with Jimmy Garvin a little bit, but he's not officially a Freebird yet. He's doing his own thing. But in 1985, they bring in the Freebirds, and this is actually on, I believe, that WWE Vault channel, which is amazing. And if it's not, it probably will be soon. But the Freebirds come into Madison Square Garden, and they're managed by Dale Wolf, who not Dale Wolf, David Wolf. Dale Wolf was a jobber. David Wolf, who was the manager for Cyndi Lauper, and Cyndi Lauper's manager slash boyfriend, who kind of brokered the whole rock and wrestling deal after Lauper met Albano. He was the one that was a big wrestling fan. But it doesn't last because they want to break the Freebirds up. The WWF doesn't really have a 6-man division. I don't know what the plan was, probably to have Michael Hayes as a singles guy because he was the character and he was the most WWF ready of the guys, and you would probably have Roberts and Gordy as a tag team. But they wanted to be a unit. They wanted to be 3 strong, so they wind up going to the AWA. And the AWA is where the gig keeps going on. The gig keeps going on, and they are now feuding with the Fantastics. They're feuding with the... I'm sorry, not there. They're feuding with the Road Warriors. So the Fantastics would have been in when they go to Crockett and they go to back to Mid-South, which is now the Universal Wrestling Federation. But the Freebirds Road Warriors, there we go. What a rush. The Legion of Doom. That was another thing that was the one thing that would kind of bum me out. Just to go back to Raw last night. That it seems to me like that was probably them writing Paul Ellering off. Which
you think so?
Maybe it was his call. Yeah, maybe not. I the one thing about that group with Cross and the authors of Pain and everybody, it's funny they bring this up. They have 2 managers and neither of them talk, which is strange.
And they have 3 guys who should kill the entire roster and lose every match.
That's probably not going to change going up against the Wyatts. So, nope. What can you do?
Cross once again is going to get terminated by that team. Did you see the video of Cross doing an arm and leg choke with 3 baseball bats and snapping them?
That's an imposing man. We met him. That's an imposing man.
Yo, if he can snap 3 baseball bats with his bicep and his legs,
I wonder what else he can do.
Like listen, you prevert, come back down.
Whoa! Who said it was perverted? I was just wondering what he could do with his biceps and maybe 5 baseball bats.
Yeah, sure. But I feel like if he wanted to kill a human, he could.
Oh,
why did we have to take it there?
Yeah, if he puts you in a choke, you're not.
I'm a prevert, but you're like sadistic, my dude.
Yo, he's strong. Like if he wanted to do damage, you're in trouble.
He's a strong boy. And I like that his hair is just getting longer and longer now because for the longest time he was bald.
Yeah,
for the longest time he was completely bald, and now he's just the hair keeps growing out and growing out and growing, and it's a good look for him. It's a good look for him.
He follows me on Instagram. Just saying.
Nice.
He follows me. No big deal.
Yeah, he was a fun guy to work with. I always root for Killer Cross. I wish they would figure out how to get the most out of him because I think there's a lot of untapped
potential. He's so charismatic and they don't use him. Like he has a really big geek. He has good charisma. They just don't they don't use him.
So back to the Freebirds who are now in the AWA. It doesn't last a whole long. The AWA is kind of on the ropes. They do it. And Vern loved doing the Dusty finish. Like it should be called the Gagne finish. It should, or the Vern finish, the way Vern would do it. And they would do it all the time. And they did it with the Freebirds. The Freebirds were baby faces in the AWA, beat the Road Warriors at a big show, but then it got overturned by the AWA Championship Committee. They did that with Hogan. They did it with everybody. Like it really should not be called the Dusty finish. And they weren't long for the AWA anyway, because they're going to go back to the UWF with Bill Watts. And Michael Hayes kind of makes a home here. even though they break up the Freebirds, Michael Hayes becomes a babyface. Michael Hayes became a commentator for a little bit in the later stages of the UWF, where he was with Jim Ross. There's this infamous video that goes around of Jim Ross and Michael Hayes, where they go to break, but they keep the commentary going, and they just start cursing up a storm and talking about how boring the match is. And a very young Sting is in the match too. It's like Sting and Eddie Gilbert against the Fantastics, which sounds like a great match, but I guess because they're doing a lot of rest holds because they're never in a break spot. But this is kind of the end too, because Buddy Roberts was a little bit older than a lot of the Freebirds, and in fact, that World Class run kind of motivated Buddy Roberts to unretire. He was ready to hang it up, but he stayed a few more years because he kind of found a second life with the Freebirds. He had a good run earlier as part of the original Hollywood Blondes, not obviously Pillman and Austin, but back in the 70s, the original Hollywood Blondes were Jerry Brown and Buddy Roberts, and they had a great run as a tag team. And this is kind of his second act. He's the veteran that kind of was with these two young guys who were the wild men, and they had the wildest road stories. And it's so funny because the only people who were crazier than the Freebirds were the Von Erichs, but the Von Erichs had this wholesome image. Another run-in. The Von Erichs had this wholesome image. There's one of the most infamous pictures in wrestling. I love it. There is this picture of Michael Hayes and Kerry Von Erich, and Michael Hayes is holding up a bottle of Jack Daniels, and Kerry Von Erich is holding up a bottle of milk. And it's like, what is in that milk? Because Kerry Von Erich did more drugs than anybody. Like that was not a milk drinker unless that milk was laced with something.
Yeah, it was a couple Baileys.
But that was the whole thing. That was what really made that whole thing click. Was the Freebirds Von Erichs feud was these wholesome Texan Christian boys against these dirty Southern rockers who have teased up long hair and they moonwalk and they listen to the devil music and they
wear makeup.
Probably, and and it works so well. And another thing they did a little bit later. Oh no! They did this in their first run of World Class. Buddy Roberts lost his hair in both of them, but and they redid this angle in the early when NXT was first on the WWE Network. They had this stuff called the Freebird hair cream, where instead of they did a hair versus hair match, but instead of it being you would get your head shaved, the Freebirds supposedly had this Freebird hair cream that it would just make your hair fall out. It was like Nair almost. And they did a thing where like Buddy Roberts got the hair cream dumped on him and he was bald and he would wrestle. He did the Kurt Angle thing where he would wear a wig and he would keep the wig in place with like wrestling headgear, like amateur wrestling headgear.
I love that.
And they used this. I totally forgot about this. And I'm jumping backward a little bit here. I'm just thinking of fun stories now. They did it like Michael Hayes was a huge heel in Mid-South at one point when the Junkyard Dog was basically Hulk Hogan in New Orleans. He was to New Orleans what Jerry Lawler was to Memphis. And they did this hot angle where the Freebird, and this is something ECW took and used for the Sandman, and it got really over. They did this really hot angle where the Freebird's hair cream got in Junkyard Dog's eyes, and he was blind. He was completely blind. He sold it completely. He sold it 100%. They say like he worked being blind either when his daughter graduated high school or when she was born. I forget which one it was. I think it was when she was born. He sold it like he couldn't see his daughter being born because he was blinded by the Freebirds. And he gives this like emotional promo about I couldn't see my daughter being born because of you, Michael Hayes. And eventually
wasn't there a bit too where a fan pulled a gun out and was going to shoot somebody? Oh, okay, okay.
It was Michael Hayes. Those New Orleans crowds were rowdy. They were rowdy. Like Ted DiBiase would talk about this too. Like the heels would usually have to park away from the building and then have one of the baby faces drive them to their car. They would like hide in the trunk or the boot of the car because if the heels knew, if the fans knew where the heels car was or whose car was the heels, they would slash their tires. They would set it on fire. They would flip it over. Like they were serious back then. Like the pre-kayfabe, like people took wrestling seriously. There were riots all the time. I think there was a riot after that match with the cage match with Flair. I think they had a riot, but yeah, so they wound up doing a blindfold cage match with Michael Hayes and JYD, because JYD is still blinded, but Michael Hayes has to wear a blindfold too. And they do the whole heel thing where the heel cheats. And he takes the blindfold off, or he's peeking out from under it, and he's sneaking up on JYD. And a guy in the crowd stands up and pulls a gun at Michael Hayes and says, "Don't worry, dog, I got you, and literally was going to shoot Michael Hayes.
And JYD was like, "Well, do I act blind or do I save my friend?"
No, you sell blind. Yeah, but they would take care of that stuff backstage. They would escort the offending fan. If a fan like try to throw something at a wrestler or stab a wrestler or something like that, they would take the fan backstage, and first Bill Watts would beat the shit out of them. And then whoever they were going after would get a turn, and then probably Dr. Death Steve Williams would get a turn. It was just like a murderer's row of these ex-football players just beating the hell out of the fans in the back room. So Michael Hayes was getting heat everywhere he went, unless he was a baby
dumb
face.
Marks.
What a time to be alive. What a time that was. Getting stabbed, starting riots. I had this discussion with somebody at a wrestling show recently backstage, where, because I guess somebody like really believed like in the storyline they were doing, and they're like, how? It's 2024. How does that happen? And I'm like, I'm kind of jealous. Like, could you imagine believing? Could you imagine like just being completely kayfabed? How great that would be! Like, if you really
is there a moment where wrestling got you recently, like in the past couple years or something, where they like you thought they were going to do something and they completely swerved you?
I was convinced, not that this is like I thought it was real, but I was convinced that Cody was beating Roman at 39. I was convinced.
Yeah,
I like to the point where as the fireworks are going off and like Roman and Heyman are on the ramp, I'm like, well, who's coming out to restart the match? Like, this isn't how it ends.
Finish?
Yeah, like, but no, that was the end. Like, no, I can be fooled. Yeah, I
thought for sure.
I can usually guess where they're gonna go.
I thought for sure when Kofi Mania was gonna be a thing at the Elimination Chamber, I was like, oh, like Kofi's winning this. Like, if they listen to the crowd, Kofi should win the title tonight. And I was like, if they don't pull the trigger, they're idiots. And they didn't. And I was like,
you always stretch it to Mania. Yeah. You had one more left in you. You always stretch it to Mania.
Yeah.
And they did, and it worked. It was a beautiful thing.
And then Brock.
And then Brock. Yeah. And Brock in 30 seconds or whatever it was.
When I was doing stuff with Ricky, people thought it was real. Like people in the business.
Yeah, that's always fun. Yeah. Well, I know we're just going to bear all the secrets now, but I know like the first time that we brought in Norbert and PPW, people thought he was really from the State Athletic Commission. Like,
really?
Yeah. Well, because
I thought he was really from the State Athletic Commission.
Well, when the first time he was there, he wasn't managing anybody, he wasn't wrestling anybody. He played it completely straight, and he was just doing things like measuring seats and measuring and checking the steps and making sure the guardrails were secured. Like it was a great intro to him. It was brilliant. Because then when he becomes like this over the top amazing character, it's just like, but we had him for the very beginning. Like people thought it was like a real like.
Yeah.
And
how about that deadly sunset flip he's working on?
The safe set flip. It's called the safe set flip. Thank you very much.
Yeah. It looks imposing.
I can't wait. Hopefully in December, if Travis and his team loses on November 9th, in December he's got to be Norbert Klaus. And not only does he have to be Norbert Klaus, he has to be nice to the boys and girls. He has to give them. He has to make sure that he's minding his P's and Q's. Because if he doesn't, maybe Sugar Dan gets stripped of that No Limits title. I have some pull there. So if first
you even talk about that, you're gonna end up on Sugar Dan's list.
First, Nice and Smooth has to win. Nothing's guaranteed because it could just as well be the infamous mayonnaise beard of Chris White getting shaved off. But anyway, that's not has nothing to do with the fabulous Freebirds. We got way off track. So eventually the UWF with Michael Hayes is starting to wane, and they had a great product. Like they were doing wonderful business, but it was a combination of things was really hurting Bill Watts. The first thing that was happening was, like everybody else, they were getting raided. Junkyard Dog jumps to the WWF. Ted DiBiase jumps to the WWF. And the people they were replacing them with they were great wrestlers, but they just didn't have that star power like the Dog had. Like your Terry Taylors of the world and your guys like that just didn't have the same star power that the Junkyard Dog had.
Yeah.
And then just on an economic thing, in the late 80s, the oil business goes south, and a lot of those areas that they would run in New Orleans and in East Texas and in Louisiana, New Orleans is Louisiana, and Arkansas, like a lot of the oil, that's a lot of the business down there is oil, especially back then.
People's jobs and economy.
Yep, and they didn't have money for wrestling tickets anymore. Like the economy caught up to them. So in 1988, I believe, Bill Watts winds up selling the UWF to Jim Crockett Promotions, and Michael Hayes comes over, and that's where in 1989 we get this is the incarnation of the Freebirds that I remember. First, Michael Hayes comes in as a babyface, but he winds up turning on Lex Luger, has a very brief run with the U.S. title, loses it back to Luger at Starrcade, and in 89, we wind up getting the new Freebirds, which is Michael Hayes and Jim Garvin. And they would have some hangers on. Gordy would come in for a little bit. They had Rocky King, who was one of the enhancement guys. They would have him as Little Richard Marley. Like there were some like satellite Freebirds, like back in Texas sometimes. Iceman King Parsons, who was a black wrestler there, would be the Blackbird. In fact, he had an offshoot group called the Blackbirds, which was him and two other black wrestlers. And so the Freebirds 2.0, this is when I would think of the Freebirds, like Gordy and Roberts, especially Roberts, were a little before my time. When I think of the Freebirds, this is who I think of. I think of Hayes and Garvin. And Gordy would be there sometimes. Like there's a really good War Games from, I believe, the 89 Great American Bash, where it's Dr. Death, the Midnight Express, who are baby faces, and I forget who else is on that team, against the Freebirds and the Samoans, which is a hell of a War Games. A hell of a War Games. It's one of the rare War Games that didn't involve the Four Horsemen, too, until basically Hogan came in. Like most of them involve the Horsemen in some way, shape, or form. But so Hayes and Garvin are coming in, and I remember when the HTW Network was first a thing, I was watching a bunch of old Clash of the Champions, and I think like 3 Clash of the Champions in a row. The opening match is the Freebirds against the Southern Boys, the Wild-Eyed Southern Boys, who became the Young Pistols later. And so they would oscillate back and forth. For a while they were heels, and then they were baby faces for a bit. They turned heels. They had a very infamous thing that happened in 1990 where they actually lost at this point it's WCW. They may still call the belts NWA, but they lost the WCW tag team titles before they won them because of the way they did things. And this would happen every now and then where because WCW would tape a lot of TV in advance. So they have a match that they taped in, I forget the exact date, but they had a match where the Freebirds lost the WCW tag team titles to the Steiner brothers. And then like 3 days later at Super Brawl or at Wrestle War, they beat Doom for the tag team title. So they literally lost them before they won them. If you look at just on the calendar, they had a negative title reign. But in reality, that match didn't air for like 3 weeks. So they had like a 3-week title reign. But yeah, they beat Doom and then they lost to the Steiners. And this is when they start to kind of expand out their universe a little bit. They had Fantasia, who they had to change his name, but at first he was called Fantasia, and then Disney said, you can't do that. You can't call him Fantasia, which was Brad Armstrong under a mask. They would always in WCW put Brad Armstrong in a mask because Brad Armstrong, who was the Road Dogg's brother, Bob Armstrong's son, was a phenomenal wrestler. Like, and he looked just like Kenny Omega. Like if you ever see the thing where it's like a joke, like Tony Schiavone and Kenny Omega 30 years ago, and it's Schiavone with the mustache on the old Saturday Night thing, and it looks like a guy. He looks like he's interviewing Kenny Omega. It's Brad Armstrong, and he was like a Chad Gable type. Like he was that good. He was a great technician, and no charisma at all. just could not really find the character work. He was the exact opposite of his brother. He was the exact opposite of Road Dogg. Where Road Dogg, a little limited in the ring, I think he would admit that, but his character work was through the roof, and that's why he became the biggest star in the family, because he could connect with an audience like his brothers, like none of his brothers could. But Brad Armstrong was the opposite.
Isn't there a rumor or a curse that the Armstrongs were all cursed?
That was kind of a joke. They would talk about, because they lost a lot. They would talk about having the Armstrong curse, and because that was the thing with, they were used a lot in the 90s in WCW as TV jobbers, but no, they're not cursed like the Von Erich family's cursed. Like there's Brad Armstrong, and they tried so many different things to get Brad Armstrong over. They had him, it was a great wrestler. It just like the charisma just wasn't there. And they tried, at one point he was the Candyman Brad Armstrong, and he would throw, that was when they were trying to replicate WWF and just have a lot of kid-friendly characters, and he would throw candy out to the crowd. At the same time, Art Barr was there, who was a phenomenal, amazing wrestler. Eddie Guerrero was original tag partner, and that's where Eddie got the frog splash from, was a tribute to Art Barr. But he was the guy who came out of Portland, and in Portland he did a Beetlejuice gimmick, and then he came to WCW as the Juicer, and he was just Beetlejuice. And they had Candyman Brad Armstrong. This is around the same time they had the Ding Dongs.
The Ding Dongs.
The Ding Dongs, who they were, I think this was a Jim Herd idea. They were a tag team, a masked tag team, who had bells all over their gear. They were like full bodysuits, like the Conquistadors. They had bells all over their gear. They would ring bells in their hands as they were in the coming out to the ring, and they had a giant bell that they would ring. And if the one that was not the legal man would ring the bell, the guy in the ring would like get some power, like it was the Undertaker's urn or something.
We got.
But they were literally called the Ding Dongs.
Some Travis guy.
That's right.
That's right. Got a like on Facebook. That's right.
You're gonna get a violation if you keep that up. You're gonna have a violation.
I would just like to say I have nothing to do with anything that comes out of his mouth.
If you don't subscribe, you're getting a violation. That's right.
What does he call?
Why do you make him sound like Eric Cartman?
Because that's exactly what he sounds like. What's what the fuck does he call Ricky?
Junie Rice.
Ricky,
Junie Rice.
Junie Rice. Yeah. Unbelievable.
Idiot.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
He's the best. So now I'm just thinking of Norbert bits. Oh man, that really threw me off, because just thinking of all the times Travis Norbert has been a problem. Michael Hayes. That's right. We're talking about Michael Hayes.
Now?
Yeah.
Michael P.S. Hayes. So I don't like it. He calls me PP Burke. I don't like that.
PP Burke.
Yeah.
Can we get t-shirts made?
So if you want, I don't need a wrestling t-shirt. No, I have vowed to not be that guy who gets a little slice of say so and then is all over the show. I do not want to be that guy. Anyway, we're back.
Though.
Yeah, that's true.
Tornado tag merch. You have your face on stuff.
That's true.
Yeah.
So Brad Armstrong comes in as Fantasia, but Disney's like, nah, that's not gonna work. Oh, and another thing, he was Arachnaman instead of Spider-Man, and he wore purple and yellow instead of red and blue because those are WCW's colors. So they tried a lot of things with Brad Armstrong. And it's funny because the match he debuts in, I think he was originally on the other side, like, because the Young Pistols is the match where he debuts because he costs the Young Pistols the match. And one of the guys in the Young Pistols was his brother, Steve Armstrong, and Tracy Smothers were the Young Pistols. So I think Brad Armstrong literally gets kicked out of the match and sent to the back. Quick puts on the Bad Street costume and comes out and helps the Freebirds. It wasn't an angle, like he was never unmasked as Brad Armstrong. But they wound up just renaming him Bad Street instead of Fantasia. And then this is when they really start to lean into the whole rock band thing, because they have a road manager now, Big Daddy Dink, who was Oliver Humperdinck, who was formerly Bam Bam Bigelow's manager. And I think he managed the Samoan SWAT team for a little bit after Dangerously wasn't with them as the Big Kahuna. And then they bring in Diamond Dallas Page as their mouthpiece. You already have Michael Hayes, and now you have DDP. So they were really, really just over the top with the Freebirds, but it didn't last long because I think Jimmy Garvin at this point was starting to get out of the business. And it's funny because he had the biggest perm of them all, and then he came back like a year later and was completely bald. Like he lost his hair. So they did wind up disbanding in the late 90s. Michael Hayes became a manager, and he was a personality for a little bit. And they do kind of come back at one of the, I think it was Starrcade 93, where Michael Hayes was supposed to wrestle Johnny B. Bad in the opener, but he comes out in a wheelchair and Jimmy Garvin's with him. At this point, Jimmy Garvin became a pilot. I think he was like a commercial, like not a commercial airline. I think he was like FedEx. I think he flew for FedEx or something.
Yeah.
But they had one last run there for like a few months, and then Michael Hayes left and Garvin fully retired. And that was kind of the end of the Freebirds, because at that point, Michael Hayes in 1995 goes to the WWF as Doc Hendricks, cuts his hair, and he's been there ever since. And that's kind of the legacy of the Freebirds.
Did he cut his hair, or did somebody else cut his hair?
Maybe they used the Freebird hair cream. Who knows?
Didn't someone cut Michael Hayes' hair on the plane ride from hell?
Yes, that was later. That was much later. That
That caused a lot of problems, didn't it?
Oh yeah. Michael Hayes has had some issues. Michael Hayes has done some things that aren't really.
Well, let's talk about what's some of the controversy with Michael Hayes.
So he was suspended for the big one. He was suspended for a little bit because I think he had some issues with substance abuse.
Yeah,
and he had a bad habit of having a few too many, and he would. I think it happened at like Triple H and Stephanie's wedding, where he kind of made it. I think he was trying to sing Band Street USA. He like got up on stage with the band and was trying to like just basically take over the wedding. And the one that got him in a lot of hot water, if it would have happened a few years later, probably almost definitely would have gotten him fired, at least for a little bit. He at the WWE Hall of Fame, he said to Mark Henry, "I'm more of a fill in the blank than you'll ever be."
Wow.
Yeah, and he got suspended for that one, but yeah, a few years later he would have been out the door. Door. But he at that point he had been entrenched. He was Doc Hendricks for a little bit, and then he did have a little run as Michael Hayes, and the closest that he came in WWF or WWE to kind of having a Freebird type thing, it was when he was managing the Hardy Boys, and they would do kind of the trio thing, but it wasn't like explicitly Freebird. And he would be like Raw's band leader for a little bit before that when he was still Doc Hendricks. And I think they even had a thing once where when he was Raw's band leader, he sang Band Street USA coming back from a commercial. He was in the Gimmick Battle Royal in 2001. He did.
Didn't he do like a Raw anniversary show where he was Michael Hayes?
He may have. I know at that point he was kind of getting out of wrestling. Let me see here. He became the head writer in October 2006. He was on TV every now and then, but I don't know if he was one of the people attacked by the Nexus. But I think that I'm going to double check here. I think that Gimmick Battle Royal may have been his last match. Although he did do a thing, I don't know if he actually wrestled or not, after Terry Gordy died. Unfortunately, the only living Freebirds are Hayes and Garvin. Buddy Roberts died of cancer, I believe, about 10 years ago or so. And Terry Gordy also had some issues with substance abuse. And I don't know if he had, I think he had a bad incident on a plane. I think he may have overdosed on pills on a plane and basically had a stroke. And he was never the same as a wrestler. He had a great run in Japan and in WCW when Bill Watts took over WCW with Steve Williams. They had one of the all-time great tag team names too, the Miracle Violence Connection, which is a very Japanese tag team name. But they were an amazing tag team. But when Terry Gordy had that incident on the plane where I think if he didn't have a stroke, I think something happened where it kind of damaged his brain a little bit. He still wrestled from time to time. They tried to reunite the Freebirds in the GWF in Dallas in the mid 90s, and Gordy had a match in ECW. ECW finally did the Battle of the Bam Bams, Bam Bam Bigelow against Bam Bam Gordy, and he had a very quick run in 1996 as the Executioner in WWF. It was right after Paul Bearer turned on the Undertaker. Hey, maybe Paul Bearer will show up at Halloween Havoc. Maybe I'll. Oh no, I don't know about that.
There you
Oh,
go.
you should. You should.
Please, 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 please.
You ever see him as Paul Bearer? He kills it.
So
you can't wear the suit anymore though.
The suit jacket is a lot baggy. Yeah, it's a lot baggy.
It's but baggy. Maybe go to the thrift store on the way home. Stop at the thrift store so you can find a coat. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it would be so great.
So the whole thing with Gordy was he did have that little run as the Executioner, did not go well because he didn't have it anymore. That injury really was kind of the end for him, and then he did unfortunately die in 2001. Although shortly after his death, Michael Hayes, and I don't know if he had a match or not, I'm looking that up right now. Terry Gordy's son got in the wrestling. Terry Gordy's son, Ray Gordy, got in the wrestling. Now it looks like Michael Hayes' last match was the Gimmick Battle Royal. That was the end of the in-ring career of Michael P.S. Hayes.
You know what Terry Gordy kind of looks like, reminds me of, or they remind me of Terry Gordy? It looks like what's his name from and he's in NWA right now, Thrillbilly.
Oh, Thrillbilly, yeah. So Terry Gordy, the guy who, and he was Japanese, but just the way he wrestled, his look, because Terry Gordy was he looked like a big baby that could just beat the hell out of you. But he had a lot of baby fat on him. He was a big dude, and especially when he was younger, because when he's starting with the Freebirds, he's like 19 years old. He's 19-year-old country bumpkin from Soddy Daisy, Tennessee, which is a great name. Like that, like if you're a wrestler and you're a Southern guy or you're playing a Southern guy and you want a hometown, like everybody does Buck Snort. And that's a great one. Waxahachie, Texas is a great one, but that was Dick Murdoch's hometown. But Soddy Daisy, Tennessee is an A+ level.
You know where I'm built from?
You're gonna be where's that?
Sugar Notch.
Sugar Notch, Ashley Sugar Notch, my favorite road sign. Sugar Notch, Pennsylvania is another good one. There's so many great names in Pennsylvania. You get Glen Campbell,
really
Pennsylvania.
Good bar out there that has amazing wings that are still super cheap on Tuesdays. It's called the Outfield. Go check it out.
Well, let's make a trip and do a bar review in Sugar Notch.
It's Sugar Notch. There you go.
I won't sit at that bar. I will order the food from that bar.
Why won't you sit at the bar?
It's a little too red for me.
Well,
we'll figure it out. Yeah, it's Sugar Notch.
It is Sugar Notch.
You know, cut them slack. They're Sugar Notch. You know.
Yeah. So.
I want to do bar reviews in all the weird named towns in Pennsylvania, like Bird in Hand, Intercourse,
Bluebell,
Blue Ball. What was the one we seen?
Or Blue Ball, yeah, Blue Ball.
The one on the way to York. I was like, that's crazy. Like Come Town or something. Come Town.
It was Cummings.
Oh yeah, like E Cummings.
Cummings. Yeah, like E Cummings.
Yeah, Pennsylvania. Yeah. Sorry. So who fits the bill for each member of the Freebirds here?
That's tough. Like
I'm Michael Hayes.
You're Michael Hayes?
Couldn't be you.
We got the hair from Michael Hayes. Both of you have the hair from Michael Hayes. If I'm the vet, I guess I'm Buddy Roberts then.
You're the one with the big gun?
Yeah, I'm the one with the giant ring post gun.
And then Lily's big baby Huey.
I should probably be Gordy. That's
you.
True.
You should be. Yeah. You should be big.
I got to be Terry Gordy. That's true. Yeah.
You're Terry.
I got the baby face. Yeah.
So Lily.
So I'm Buddy Roberts.
Yeah, Lily was supposed to find us a logo and do a Bad Street USA logo spoof. It's still in the works. We might still post one.
I just want you to be aware that there is an ABJ one already out though.
At ABJ Bad Street.
Mm-hmm.
Where
are you guys ready for the? Here's the mind-blowing. Bad Street USA is literally a knockoff of Elm Street. Look at the font. Look at the logo.
Well, wrestling is very much a copycat business. Very much so.
Yeah, we'll figure it out, but we'll get like a Bad Street USA spoof. But we do have, not available yet in the merch store, but if you guys are into it, we'll post it. We have this that was made. We have a little Tornado Tag Halloween Havoc spoof. And then we also have a little Saturday Night Main Event here.
What's the other one I need?
I like that one a lot. I think that one looks
yeah,
cool.
I'm betting they're gonna because they're really open to using licensed music now, and I'm betting they're going to use Obsession by Animotion, which was the original theme. But I love the second theme to Saturday Night's Main Event, the one that was just in-house music. I think they used it for like the Slammy Awards or something before that.
Yeah.
Just the opening of Saturday Night's Main Event, like with the little promos, like the little 5-10 second promos in the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the best stuff. I remember they were doing that with SmackDown for a little bit. It was probably like a Pritchard idea, and I think that was actually pretty cool. But yeah, so Michael Hayes, we're talking about his legacy now. Terry Gordy's son was in WWE for a little bit as first he was Jesse and the tag team Jesse and Festus, where that was him and the guy would go on to become Luke Gallows or Doc Gallows, where I think this was after he was the fake Kane, but before he was Luke Gallows. And he would just be he would just kind of have this like he'd have this like catatonic look. He would just with his tongue out, and then when the bell would ring, the bell would just make him go off. And I think they did do a finish where like their opponent rang the bell again and he became all docile again.
Yeah.
But then later they spun that because in canon that was Luke Gallows, because they said he was like that because he was on drugs. And then CM Punk got him to join the Straight Edge Society and got him off the drugs, and he became normal.
Oh, well, there's also There's also a photo of him as Festus, where one of his boys fell out of his trunks.
Oh no, no!
And WWE took a photo of it and didn't realize that his nut was hanging out of his pants, and he thought it was so funny that he got 8x10s made of it.
Oh jeez!
And he used to sign 8x10s. And not tell anybody that the reason he thought it was funny and sold the 8x10s is because his balls were hanging out.
That's amazing. That's like the Billy Ripken baseball card where they wrote "fuckface" on the bottom of his bat and nobody caught it. Like the card is out there, or the 1 2 3 kid
eyebrows shaved off. Yep.
Yeah.
So the fun fact is, we met Gallows, and I asked him if that story is true, and he said he goes, I wish I still had one, but no, it's 100% true. I used to do 8x10s with one of my balls hanging out of my pants.
That's like and I haven't checked in a while, but it marvels me still that Peacock or WWE or whoever has not edited the main event of Starrcade 86, where Ric Flair's wrestling. Yeah, Ric Flair's wrestling Nikita Koloff, gives him a vertical suplex, and the Russian sickle is out. And Tommy Young has to swoop in and cover it up. That's why he's the best referee.
Not even cover it up. He swoops in and puts it back in for him.
Yeah. Tommy Young.
That's a referee right there. Imagine a referee scoops your whole junk with his hands and puts it back in your trunks.
Well, not saying that this makes it any easier or makes it any different, but if I'm not mistaken, I believe Tommy Young is how do we put this delicately? Tommy Young's gay, I believe. I'm not 100% of that, but Tommy Young is a gay man.
Yeah, tons of gay wrestlers, tons.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah. So real quick, NXT and Halloween Havoc. Here's some matchups to look forward to, and I wonder which one you're most pumped for.
NXT
Trick Williams versus Ethan Page. It actually just started, so we're gonna wrap up here and we'll watch it. But Trick Williams versus Ethan Page in a Devil's Playground match.
That was Cora Jade with Gargano. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Roxanne Perez and Cora Jade versus Julia and Stephanie Valkyrie. So we're seeing Julia live and Stephanie.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Valkyrie. Sorry. Tony D'Angelo this one you're going to be excited for. Tony D'Angelo versus Obafemi. Tables, ladders, and chairs and scares for the NXT North American Championship.
Tables, ladders, and scares. Yeah, that's it.
Tables, ladders, and scares. Yeah. You're high on this Obafemi. You like Obafemi.
And I've actually have a proof on this thesis statement now, and the final thing on that was Sammy Chaos and PPW when it worked. You know what I've said for a long time. If you take somebody that looks like that's physically imposing, that just looks like intimidating, and you have them run roughshod, not sell a lot, never lose, and just beat the hell out of everything in their path, 100% of the time they get over. They can be awful, like Ryback. they get over 100% of the time. They could be awful, like that stinking hyena Bill Goldberg, and they will get over 100% of the time. And if they're actually good, like a Sammy Chaos, then you're off to
Or
the
an
races.
Obafemi. I think Obafemi's pretty decent.
Look, I will never be upset about a big, strong guy that likes to just throw people. Just throw people around. It's always good. I question and I'm sure they have a plan, the idea of having two of your big guys in a ladder match, but I'm sure they'll do something fun with that. Maybe he'll shot put the ladder, because Obafemi was a shot putter before he was a wrestler.
Yeah.
But I'm actually
dope.
I'm actually very much looking forward to that women's tag match. I mean, Cora Jade's fine. Like, I don't have anything against Cora Jade, but the other three in that match are, I think, three of the best women in professional wrestling right now. Roxanne has hit it out of the park. She has given the ball, and she has been running like Saquon Barkley, and then you have Julia, who is coming in with this amazing reputation, and Stephanie Vaquer. When I that match with her and I can never remember
Mercedes?
her WWE name. No. Oh well, yeah, that too. But I mean, last week on NXT, the match with Vaquer and I keep wanting to say her pre WWE Ren Sinclair. I couldn't think of her. I kept wanting to say Maddie Rankowski. But that match with her and Ren Sinclair on NXT last week for a TV match was off the charts. They both look great. Like, Ren Sinclair is another one who's very, very good. Like,
their women's division in NXT is really stacked. Really stacked.
It is. And those four, Ren, Julia, Stephanie Vaquer, and Roxanne, those four are that could be your next four horsewomen right there. Like they are. I mean, they're not all. Well, then again, the original horsewomen weren't homegrown, but yeah, those four are as rock solid as it gets. They are.
And
they are something.
You want to talk about someone who used to be terrible. They were on TV, and I was like, get them off TV. But they have found their gear. Lash Legend got good.
I haven't really seen a lot of except for the old ones.
He's on right now. Lash
bad.
Legend's in a tag team match against Damage Control. But Lash is finding herself. I think Lash could be Jade, but better.
And I love the name of her finish. I found out today the name of her finish, and it's incredible. The Lash extension.
Yeah.
That's an incredible. I also I'm very high on Sol Ruka. I think Sol Ruka has a lot of potential.
I'm a huge Thea Hale fan, so I like Thea Hale.
Yeah, so it's an embarrassment of riches there for that women's division, and yeah, they're going to be going head to head with AEW again in a couple weeks here. But the night shift is now in the other way. Like, a lot of people were really the people who have to kind of run down AEW any chance they get. We're very much trumpeting how great that how horrible AEW's rating was against NXT. And it was, NXT really stomped them out ratings wise, but AEW was one moving nights. So that show at the ECW Arena on November 6th, now it's going to be NXT. They're still going to probably do a higher rating. First of all, they're on network TV, and it's in so many more homes. But yeah, that's going to be interesting. And like the last time they're on Wednesday against Dynamite, they loaded up that show. That's when Cody Rhodes was on NXT. That's when The Undertaker.
They loaded up with a bunch of people to make an appearance but not actually wrestle. And people were like, it was a better show. I'm like, the other show had better matches.
AJ Styles wrestled. I think it was the only time AJ Styles ever wrestled on NXT. I think he wrestled Waller.
I think that's true. I just hope that what's her name host it. I want to see Shotzi.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Yeah. All right. Well, that'll do it for Tornado Tag. We'll see you guys later. If you are in the area and you're going to be at Halloween Havoc this weekend, come find us. You'll see us all with our title belts. So come get some photos with us at the NXT show. We're going to wrap up here, Tornado Tag. We'll be back next week to talk about the history of Halloween Havoc and maybe our experience at Halloween Havoc. So tune in next week, and then
that'll be history at that point.
Yeah.
It'll be free the old history.
Yeah. What do you think? What are you thinking for November? What do we got some ideas for topics?
She just fell off the top rope.
Oh, okay. I thought November, that could be interesting. I think last year we did do the history of Thanksgiving shows. Yeah. November, you can always do something with a Survivor Series, a Starrcade, something like that. a War Games, because now War Games is part of Survivor Series.
Yeah,
even though
we can do War Games.
Oh,
back in the day, though,
Wait,
War Games
are
was
we-
a summer thing.
are we doing one on the 5th? That's election day, y'all.
That's fine.
The returns aren't going to start coming until like.
Can
8
we
o'clock.
do like people in wrestling that have gone into politics?
Yeah,
It's wrestling day. It's election day.
Let's do the history of Jesse Ventura on the 5th.
I was the governor of Minnesota. That's all you.
The governor of Minnesota. Now I live off the grid in Mexico.
You want to do Jesse Ventura on the 5th?
That works for me. Interesting story, that guy. Very interesting.
Let's do Jesse the Body on the 5th. We got the 12th, the 19th.
Just as long as we don't have Ivan Podolsky or Chico Santana.
Chico Santana. Let's do a history of the belt. You want to do a belt history?
Yeah, you can do that.
We've been talking about the U.S. title. Do you want to do the U.S. title?
Yeah, that's a tricky one. But yeah, just because there were so many versions, but the kind of mainline NWA WCW US title, yeah, we could do that one. That's a good.
All right, so we got Jesse, the U.S. title. If anyone in the chat can put any suggestions, and we'll oh, Chelsea Green just showed up.
She's been there. She just knocked everybody out.
I love Chelsea Green. Chelsea and Piper just came in and just destroyed the whole ring. I think Chelsea should be in NXT. That's where she should be right now.
She definitely should be getting a push because she is
so
her character work is through the roof. I understand putting it on Tiffany Stratton, but if you're not strapping the Rocket to Tiffany Stratton, she would have been perfect for a Money in the Bank.
Yeah,
Chelsea Green would have been perfect for that.
So Jesse the Body, the U.S. title.
We do want to do a Survivor Series episode?
Yeah, we'll pick a Survivor Series.
We could do we could go one of two ways with that. Yeah, one of the first pay-per-views I ever watched was Survivor Series 89. It's not a good show, but it is a moment in time. It is a moment in time. It's where Demolition they do a double turn. It's
Elizabeth had lust, or Hogan had lust in his eyes.
I think we did that one though, right?
Did we?
No, we haven't done Survivor Series. You're just talking about the.
WrestleMania 5 we
hours.
did. Yeah, WrestleMania 5 we did for sure.
Let's see. What is the best WWE Survivor Series pay-per-view according to the fans?
I mean, I'm just throwing
96
this out
was
there. We
pretty
still
good.
have like 3 weeks until the 19th. Like you have almost a full month until the 19th.
They're saying 1998 Deadly Games: The Rise of the Rock.
Oh, that's an interesting one. That is the magnum opus of Vince Russo. We could do Deadly Game. We don't do a lot of Attitude Era stuff. I always like to push it back to the 80s, but 98.
98.
98. Let's do 98.
99 is
98.
99 is the one where Austin gets hit by the car.
Yeah. And then Steven Chambers in the chat says Eddie Guerrero or Earthquake. I'm cool with an Eddie episode.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Want to do Eddie? All right. So we'll wrap it up on the 26th with Eddie Guerrero.
One of my all-time favorites, so I'm good with that. Eddie Guerrero is top 10 for me.
We're lined up for November, so I'll work on those thumbnails. BP, anything you want to plug before we get out of here?
I brought it up earlier. Just PPW Engage is going to be on the 9th of November. So I think it's 2 weeks from Saturday. Wow, that's coming up quick. We have some matches left to announce. I'm very excited about this one. I think it's going to be a really fun show. That Nolan Pierce VSK match has so much history behind it. Facade and Brad Baylor is going to be a lot of fun. Zoe Cannon is going to make her debut in PPW. Jasmine Howe is going to make her debut in PPW. So I always like seeing new faces in the women's division. Last month we had Nahir Robles in. She was incredible. So it's always good to get some new blood in there, just because we remember a time where it was like, oh, we only have a few women booked, so let's just have the same women wrestle every month. And we're trying not to do that now.
Unfortunately.
Trying not to do that now. Trying to mix it up a little bit and having that new blood in there. And that's been a lot of fun. So yeah, this should be a fun show. And you never know what's going to happen at PPW. So could be an interesting one.
Last thing I want to talk about or plug is check out the rest of the content. You get some memberships. We have $1, $5, or $25 memberships. Also, merchandise is available. Go grab some t-shirts. But also, got to work with another commentator over the weekend. And great chemistry between us. I love working with Toddy. Very, very good. I thought I had a really good time working with them.
Yep.
Yeah, they had nothing but positive reviews for you as well, and they were very excited to do the show with each other, and I thought it was a really, 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 really good time. So yeah, huge shout out to Toddy. So everyone go follow them on social media.
Heck of a drive too, Pittsburgh to Jersey. Woo.
Yeah, very good.
That's dedication.
Connor was at the High Tension show. My buddy Connor here was there. He was there in attendance. Got to see the death match. Him and his little group of friends are a really fun group of people to come to wrestling shows. It got to the point where Angel Metro just sat with them the whole show. Like she wrestled and then went and sat with their crowd and just was just as crazy as they were. Like Angel was part of the show. She just went out and sat with the crowd. She's unreal. I love Angel Metro.
That's always fun.
Yeah, Angel Metro's the GOAT. But really good time. That's going to do it. Tornado Tech Podcast will be back. So make sure you go check out the newest episodes of Bangin' Beers that just dropped. So I just did Bangin' Beers at Country Club Brewing, as well as a 5-question with ABJ with the head brewer and one of the owners of Country Club Brewing. So we get a little bit of an interview inside of 5 questions with ABJ. Tomorrow, the final episode of 5 questions with TB3D, 3D Print Shop drops tomorrow. And then Ref DQ will be on 5 questions with ABJ on Friday. And then we'll be dropping an interview with Jackie Hoffner on Monday. So we'll see you guys with all that content. Make sure you go like, share, and subscribe. And let's get to that 2,000 subscribers. Word of mouth is how we grow. And we'll see you on the next one. We're out of here.
Bye.
Doot, doot, doot.